If you want to make like tens or 20s of millions of dollars, real estate is a hard business to produce that in cash. You can make that in equity, right? But like there's very, very few people that do that as real estate people, where you actually like, you're like rich, you're not just like wealthy.
And the other, I guess, thing you and Dan, your opinion on too, is like, what about maybe the few percentage of people that like, they're kind of killing it. Like they're doing well, but they also wake up, you're like, I don't want to fucking do this today. I don't want to do this any day. And you have a lot, you have weeks of that in a row, right? But you're still making good money. There's just the intangible side. There's no fulfillment. There's no happiness that comes with it. There's no joy.
Yeah. But
that's a very subjective thing to try to measure.
Yeah. And that goes back to the whole cheesy notion of like, what's your why?
Yeah.
And
sure.
like, why are you doing it? But also, and I would say this has really become apparent to me as Dan and I have moved, we sold out of Backyard Home Buyers and moved towards a lending company. I personally haven't experienced this quite as much, but sorry, Dan, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I have seen this in you, the change in your temperament and like your excitement and just like general mood and energy now that we have focused on the lending business, where I know that you are more interested in that industry. We have momentum and everything else, right? Versus the real estate business that felt like a dead end with where we were at. Like that is something that is very, very real, and that matters a lot because it makes it a lot easier to be going through the grind and doing the hard things when you don't hate it. And I think that there's always like a novelty piece when you
sure. You're like
do something new.
Getting it.
Yeah. Well, if you're being successful at anything, it's fun, right? Especially when you start out, but then that wears off and then you're less like, this success isn't what I'm really after. And I think for me personally, and I don't know where you guys come in at, but I have a feeling it's like, I don't know any of us that got into real estate to be real estate people for like ever. There was like something else, like real estate was a way to do it. And maybe real estate was supposed to be the thing that gets you there. But it's like, when you look back, what actually drew you into it? It was like, this idea of passive income or this idea of leveraging debt to be able to build wealth quicker than you could have. And we did it all of us entered the market at a time when that was the opportunity, more so than the stock market when you don't have lots of cash. I mean, think about it. Like none of us could have built that same level of wealth just investing in the stock market because we didn't have the cash up front, right? Yeah, so you have to build that level of wealth to be able to do that without something like real estate because of the leverage piece. And there's a lot of benefits of it. I think a lot of the benefits have been oversold by gurus of why you should get into real estate, and it's just to draw people in to buy shitty deals or buy their courses or whatever. But
which is where they actually make their money, right?
Actually, where they make their money. That's where they're making hand over fist money.
Yeah, like going back to one of my mentors said several years ago, like on that note, I think about this quote a lot and I really like it. I repeat it pretty regularly is I went to a mastermind with him down in Austin and he started it up on the board. He had real estate is not the thing. Real estate is the thing to get you to the thing. And I think that's so true for like the vast majority of people. Like that's one of the reasons you don't see a lot of people that have been flipping houses for 10 years. People either crash out or they make their money and they move on to something else that has a higher velocity of money, right? That has like more enterprise value, that is easier to hire for, that is easier to scale.
There's less variables.
Less variables, less downside risk. Because like also like if you look at real estate in general, the downside risk that exists both internally and from external factors is pretty nuts. Honestly, right? Like internally, because of the debt that you have to take on to do every project, you're going to do it at scale. Unless you have millions and millions of dollars, you have to take on debt to buy every house, right? And then the external factors of not only the housing market, like in a literal sense, but also what is the sentiment around real estate, right? From the public, from the banks, right? From your investors, from your buyers, and all those things affect your profitability, what your holding cost is on everything, how possible it's going to be for you to refinance or exit your hard money debt. Right. Because like, even if the general public thinks that real estate's like fine, but all the banks are like, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to tighten up all of our restrictions. You can't pay off your hard money and you're screwed.
Yep. I mean, just appraisers, lenders, contractors, title companies, insurance people, material costs. Like I could list up probably 20 things that are just things that you cannot control during your own deal.
A lot of
And
inputs and one output. Which
yeah,
is you
and like
exiting.
all of those, you'd be like, me and my buddy that's here always say the one time, like the hardest part of real estate is relying on other people because you have to. There's no way around it. You can't personally fix every house you want to do if you're going to do 10 houses. Like,
this is true.
Yeah. So I always sort of go back to the notion. I think real estate is an amazing business to make your first bit of money. But once you kind of have that, you need to decide if the struggle is still worth it to continue trying to make that same amount of money. Right.
And this is where the whole argument is. Hormozi's always like, just do more for a long time over everybody else and you're sure to win. Yep. That's true. But also on the other side of that is, when do you know, like, okay, kill that, take that behind the barn and shoot it and try something else.
Right.
And like, you're still stacking those skill sets. Like you're still in a better place going to option B because of your experience with option A. But it's just like when you get off the horse. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the answer to that is if real estate's going to be your thing, or you're going to stay real estate adjacent, which is probably a good idea. Because if you've ran this business for 3 to 4 years at any solid level and like, paid your bills and fed your family, like you have a really good skill set. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to stay adjacent as opposed to going and trying to start a brick and mortar, something XYZ. But, like going into something that can be more systematized and where you can truly hire yourself out of, like the wholesaling business. Like Mike and I have tried it. I know Dylan, you're kind of in that process and you've done it a lot, but there's a certain level that you can't take yourself out of it, because the reason why your company's been so successful is because of you as the individual. It's super hard to replicate.